Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Trucking Tower podcast. I'm very excited today to be joined by Perry Troyer. Perry is the Director of Business Development at SBS Group of Companies, a very large global supply chain partner in St. Paul, Minnesota. How are you doing today, Perry?
I'm doing well, Eva. Thanks for having me.
Great. Well, today we're going to be talking about keys to taking out the headache of transport, which is a really important topic to a lot of our followers. But before we get started, I want to kick things off and give a special shout out to our sponsor today, Cyberfuels. If you'd like to reduce your spend on fuel by 26 cents to 95 cents per gallon of diesel and improve engine performance with less repairs and maintenance, be sure to click on the link below. So Perry, to give our audience a little bit of background about you, where were you? Who were you surrounded by? What inspired you to do what you're doing today?
Well, I grew up in eastern Iowa, and I started for a local trucking company down there, worked for them for almost a decade, and it was a local flatbed company, and that kind of got my foot in the door. At that company, I touched just about a little bit of everything there. I was a dispatcher, driver, broker, and then moved up through the ranks and just tried different positions throughout my career. I've started several brokerage offices for different companies, and we just moved our way up through, and now I'm here at SBS and got a whole power behind me here.
That's awesome. You have such a unique background. You did some farming as well, right?
Yes, I did. I actually was in the transportation industry for about 15 years or so. And then I was at a point in my career where I felt like I needed a break. So I unplugged from everything in the transportation world as much as you could. And my wife and I, we bought some cattle and we took our hand at farming for about 4 years. And
That's awesome.
We had the opportunity to sell out, not like most people do, at the top of the market. So we took that opportunity and we made the decision at that time we could either invest back into the farm and be in it for the long haul, or I could get back into transportation. And well, obviously we're here today.
You still have the itch for it, but I think it's a unique perspective on the actual product itself, all the way through the A to Z process. You've seen it all, so that's amazing. Mm-hmm. That's great. Well, at Trucking Tower, we have over 65 combined years of trucking experience, so we recognize the importance of the transport process. So what would you say are keys to taking the headache out of the transport process?
Well, we all know that everybody that's in this industry knows that the headaches are a very big part of the industry. And as a provider, your customers have headaches, and you're the ones they're calling to you to fix that headache for them. So I guess one of the big things is just knowing your customers and what they need, and then researching those problems so that you can provide solutions for them. And if you're providing solutions for them rather than just, I can find you a truck. Like if your customer has international shipment and they don't know what to do, you research that, you figure out what the crating process is for it, the container process is for it, and provide them with that solution. And you're adding something to their portfolio that they didn't have before. That's one that you could help with. Okay. But other things, just knowing your employees, empowering them, be a coach, not just a boss. And it's if you have a good team behind you, and your team is empowered, then you're going to get a lot farther than just managing them from the day-to-day aspect and telling them what to do. Knowing what your customers' needs are and having a good team and treating that team well, you're going to get a long ways in this business.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent advice. And at SBS, you told me, we chatted the other day, and you said that you guys really take it from A to Z, correct?
Oh, absolutely. At SBS, it's probably the largest arsenal I've ever had working in the sales aspect of it. Because if you have a shipment that is purchased in the country Turkey, we can arrange that shipment to be picked up over there in Turkey, put on a container, and take care of the shipping aspect of it to get it across the Atlantic. SBS is also a licensed customs broker, so we do all the customs paperwork for the border crossings. And then we have choices. Once you get domestically, we can stick it on a rail system that we work with, or we can put it into one of our warehouses and transload it and off to a road truck to get that final mile delivery into it. And so, yeah, SBS really does have that point A to point B end-to-end type of shipment quality that we can offer our customers too.
That's awesome. That's great to know. And what would you say would be some things to avoid that our listeners could learn from?
Well, I hate to avoid anything really, because I feel like a lot of things you can find solutions for if you really dig into it. But I mean, avoid micromanagement. I mean, nobody likes that. Your team doesn't like that. Nobody likes that. And with the team, but yeah, I think on that end of it, I mean, try to avoid mistakes that you've done in the past. A lot of it's learning too, but yeah, I would say trust in your team that you hired to do the job.
Fully believe that. I'm a former athlete, so when I always think back about that team environment where we had the most success, is we really trusted one another, and that's translated quite a bit into business today. Is just being very transparent and learning to trust one another, and letting everyone go do what they're supposed to do, and trust in the process. So absolutely. So I love that you shared some of the keys to taking the headache out of transport. But we always ask our guests for one final word of advice before we disconnect today. So what would that be for our listeners and viewers today?
Well, one thing that I've always tried to live by in my professional career is, it may be right, it may be wrong, but I always try to train my replacement, because you can't grow in your own career if you don't teach the people how to do your current position. And you shouldn't be afraid to lose your position, because it should empower you to do better and move on in your own career. So I guess my advice would be to grow in your career. Don't be afraid to trade your own replacement.
That's excellent advice. And duplicating yourself is not a bad thing if you work as hard as you do. So that's awesome. Well, Harry, we were so happy to have you with us here today and to talk about what you're doing at SBS, and just would love to have you back on another time if you're open to it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today's podcast on the Trucking Tower podcast. We thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time. Take care.